We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke as broke can be.
Yes, welcome one and all. It's Vital and I'm back. We are back. But we're going deeper than we usually go. In this video, we'll be covering exactly why artists should own their masters. But what are masters? Not a lot of people know. So I'm going to give you a little insight, a little understanding, a little knowledge on exactly what masters are and everything around it. Why do we hear so much about artists signing their rights away and years down the line falling into a crazy legal battle? We're going to deep dive into certain situations and explain exactly how you can avoid doing the same thing. So for this, we'll be talking about what are masters, what does it mean to own your masters, some issues that artists, musicians and bands can face, and what does signing away your actual masters mean. And again, this is another one of those videos where you'll need to stay from the start right to the end to get all the information, because everything in this video is going to tie to the next. But regardless, you still have the timestamps, the chapters down below, so you guys can definitely click and move around and see where you want to be in the video. But if not, you know exactly what to do. Sit back, relax, and take note. Before we start with all the festivities, make sure you subscribe to the Ditto music channel. I'm gonna need you to click like and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Remember to leave comments down below on anything that you found interesting, any help you need, or any support. But if you feel like you found a little bit more information, you're more than welcome to drop it down in the comments. I'm cool to stand corrected, because this information, especially about owning masters, is something that's forever changing. People are becoming more knowledgeable about it, and also it's an open conversation. So get down in the comments and let me know exactly what your thoughts are. All right, wicked, so let's get into it. So what are masters? In the music business, a master recording is the official original recording of a song, sound, or performance, also referred to as masters. It is the source from which all later copies are made from. Still not clear? Alright, put simply, controlling the master rights essentially means you have control over what is done with the song or the album, full stop. See now, the songs that you record originally, in any sense, you own, unless you signed a contract saying otherwise. Even when you're recording your music initially, it's good to have an understanding of like where your music's gonna go, what you plan to do with it, understanding the licensing side of it, getting grips on ownership of your music, whether it's yours or yours and someone else, yours and a producer, yours and another guitarist, yours and a rapper, a singer. It could be anybody, it might even be a manager. I'm also about you and your music, whether you want to be a signed artist and what exactly that will mean. But it's important to understand no two contracts are the same, and there'll always be some kind of fine print or some jargon, lawyer jargon, that most likely you won't understand. But this is why it's so important to have representation, an agent, or a trusted lawyer, and that's a key part, trusted. What does it mean to own your masters? So now you understand what masters are. Why is it important? By owning your master recordings, you keep control, and you're free to release your music however you want via whichever channels you choose. If an artist does choose to sign with a label, owning your masters is like having the upper hand. And just to add to that, it's all about leverage. If you lose your leverage when it comes to renegotiation time, if it ever comes to that, with your masters at hand, whether you own all of it or a higher percentage, you have leverage. You would be in a better position to have a conversation and have your demands met, especially if your music has done well during the period of your previous or current contract. To own your masters is to own your music, what it does, how it's used, who you lease it to, who you license it to receive all the money it makes, TV, radio, adverts, and to have in control where all the royalties of the music actually end up. And there's so much more. This is why it's so important to have some understanding of how you are maneuvering with your masters and try to obtain full ownership. If not full ownership, then part ownership. It's about having leverage and having the upper hand. It's really about controlling your future. You don't know where you're gonna be. You don't know how big you're gonna be. You'll never know what your music will do for you in the future. How your music can take you from passion to a wealthy income, a sustainable lifestyle, a very lucrative job role, some issues you can face. All right, so we're gonna go very deep in this section. In this section, we're gonna reference a lot of artists that have gone through it and that are still going through it, in fact. So at the start, when I'm saying sit back, take note and relax, you might have to take out the relax part and get the notepad ready. So I mean, this is happening to artists all over the world, good and the bad. But the most recent artist to stand up and talk about what's going on in their contracts and what's going on for their music is Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's masters were sold by Scooter Braun, who is the founder of Raymond Braun Media Group, RBMG Records, also Schoolboy Records, and Schoolboy Publishing. Sean sold the masters to Shamrock Capital, who had recently raised $400 million in a new fund. They initially intended to spend the money on entertainment IP and really spread the whole investment across the entertainment industry, including music, media, and more behind the scene things like copyright. But they initially invested $330 million, a big percentage of the money, just into Taylor Swift's back catalogue. They basically bought the majority of her masters. So that's a rough idea of what happened, but here's the sad part. Taylor Swift herself has performed, wrote, and created the majority, if not all, of these songs. But she said this: "As you know, for the past year, I've been actively trying to regain ownership of my master recordings. With that goal in mind, my team attempted to enter negotiations with Scooter Braun. Scooter's team wanted me to sign an ironclad NDA. NDA meaning non-disclosure form. Basically saying, if you sign this, you can't speak about what's going to happen next in public, and potentially forever, depending on how that form was set out. Stating I would never say another bad word about Scooter Braun unless it was positive, before we could even look at the financial records of BMLG, Big Machine Label Group, which is always the first step in a purchase of this nature. So I would have to sign a document that would silence me forever before I can even have the chance to bid on my own work. My legal team said this is absolutely not normal, and they've never seen an NDA like this presented, unless it was to silence an assault accuser by paying him off, and he would never even quote my team a price. These master recordings were not for sale." She said her master recordings were not for sale. I'm assuming that's what she believed. But again, we have to keep going back to it. This is why it's important to have great representation. Doesn't matter what part of your career you're in. It's why it's important to have an agent. It's why it's important to have a busy-minded person or have access to a really great lawyer that can look over things for you. I know it's costly, but it's going to make sense in the end, especially if you believe in your music and you believe in what you're doing. And even more so, if you're actually on the up and coming and people are starting to look into what you're doing and you're beginning to go over the hill, you're beginning to kind of get where you need to get to. And then at that point, you need to get people behind your back that have your best interests always. So for Taylor Swift to kind of get any reconciliation or be able to make money from her music without someone taking a piece of the pie, she has to literally re-record all of her music and start pushing that music as the original content.
The reason I'm not there tonight is I'm actually re-recording all of my old music in the studio where we originally recorded it. So it's been amazing and I can't wait for you to hear it.
But the American artist Russ, he said it best.
Like if you're in 2019 and you're an artist getting taken advantage of, I don't feel bad for you. There's way too many interviews out. There's way too much information out where you're still getting played the same way people were getting played 30 years ago. You feel me? So I think it says more about you and less about the industry.
And it's true. Loosely linking to that statement is a statement from one of the most biggest successful girl groups ever, especially up till that date. 30 years ago, TLC said this.
We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke can be.
As broke as can be, you know. Well, here's why they went broke, and not after their success, but during it.
Trust me, you can sell 10 million albums and be broke if you have greedy people behind you. Well, you know, contracts and stuff is kind of hard to handle business when you're stuck in contract.
And again, it leads me to let you guys know it's about the people that you have around you. Like Russ says, like TLC went through, if you have the right people around you, and that just might have to be just yourself. It might have to be you and your friend, you and your family member, you and someone that you believe in, someone that you pay to kind of help you do what you need to do. A lot of this is about trial and error, to be honest. Not everyone's gonna find a perfect team straight away. When you look at artists in the UK, you think, okay, Skepta never had it straight away, but he always had his friends and his people around him. Stormzy, for example, came into the game, and from the outside looking in, he's named the same people he's always named in his lyrics, which kind of lets you know he's had the same people around him. And for many other people, it's the same, but for a lot more, it isn't. When signing a contract or signing away your masters, you really have to see about obtaining a good lawyer. Because what are you getting in return for that? You might see on a piece of paper a certain amount of money, but is that all it is? And this is something similar to what happened to Kanye West. And in fact, it's still happening. You gotta ask yourself these questions. If you can't get a good lawyer, do I know what I'm signing? How long will I be in this contract for? How long after the contract will things like my music still be affected Will I still be affected after the contract? Will I be tied to do things even though the contract's ended? Would I mind if I made a mistake to sign and lost full rights and control to my music? These are the things you have to kind of take a second and think about, because reality, if you're going to go into that office, go into that boardroom and sign a paper with no representation, no agent, no lawyer, then if you can't honestly answer those questions with a clear understanding of the jargon in the contract, then it's best to just take a step back. There are many things that we can go into about Kanye West, but let me show you what was found in March 2019 in regards to Ye's contract. This, for example, Kanye West must constantly create and release music according to his contract with EMI Publishing. It also contractually bars him from retiring. Imagine you're not allowed to retire, ever. But here's more. You, Mr. West, hereby represent and warrant that to EMI that you will, throughout the term as extended by this modification, because his original contract was in 2005 and then it got updated in 2012, remain actively involved in writing, recording and producing compositions and major label albums as your principal occupation, and at no time during the term will you seek to retire as a songwriter, recording artist or producer, or take any extended hiatus which you are not actively pursuing your musical career in some basic manner as you have pursued such career to date. The preceding representation shall not be deemed to prevent you taking a vacation of limited duration. And again, it's just a lot of jargon, but you see what's inside. It's saying that you have to be an artist and you can't take a vacation that's wildly crazy. He has to always be working on something and be able to deliver something on their end from him, literally sucking the life out of his creativity. But it's something that he signed in 2005 and then again in 2012. And the reason why we even know this is because Kanye West was on Twitter and he posted online around 102 pages worth of legal documents about, and kept them up there so people were screenshotting, saving, breaking down these contracts and trying to understand exactly what situation he's been in. All of his music contracts, and this is why we know this information. So it's weird that 15 years after his initial contract, and maybe obviously a lot of time in between that, and only now he's talking about it, but think about this, maybe he's been trying to resolve it for years, but he's been stuck. So again, I asked you, do you want to be stuck in a situation where you have no freedom, where you can't maneuver without being told what to do? And I mean, it gets deeper. So apparently EMI can hold Kanye West to his contract for up to 35 years. And this is why you have to be careful. It's actually not a joke. Kanye West's contracts state that he should receive in the millions, I'm talking in 3, 4, 5 million for every album right up until his 10th album. And these were stated as advances, money that the label would give you in return for an album. But the problem here is the fine print. If you go through all the contracts and you have a cheeky look and you understand what's going on, you'll see that a lot of that money has to get recouped. So they are actually loaning him a lot of money, allowing him to feel he is free with all this money and then recouping it on the back end. But the problem is what he will spend on creating this album and all the things around it and the people that have to get paid and renting cars and renting venues. This money starts to build and accumulate really quickly, especially over the span of maybe 2-3 years and a full album with loads of singles and props and people involved. So you end up being an artist who is promised an advance of 2 million, but having to pay back 4. So now you're in debt, plus you're in a contract, and now you owe your label. And technically you may have not even seen any of the money. Kanye may receive in the millions for his advances and a very small amount for his royalties, like 15%. Bear in mind that may have to get split upwards. And outside of his music, he's worth around $3 to $5 billion. But he's always stuck to have to release music. And I mean, for a lot of people, creating music for the rest of your life is a dream. But if you don't have the choice of when to stop, when to slow down, what kind of music to necessarily make, how to make it, who to make it with, where your money goes from what you've made, signing a bad contract and not owning your masters can make you lose all of that. And mental health, especially in music, especially in the times that we're living in right now, is most important, because at the end of the day, the happiness is everything. There are artists more recently like Nipsey Hussle, Roddy Ricch, Chance the Rapper, Hopsin, and more recently Frank Ocean, who are independent, self-sufficient and self-sustaining from music. And many UK artists too, like Stormzy, Jamie, Skepta, Lady Leisha, Gets, Big Nasty, who predominantly all own their own music and have successfully moved through the industry, growing without the mistake of being lost, stuck, or tied to any situation or contract that they can't get out of. But the reality of it all is, you have to know what you're getting into. You need good representation when you're going into these boardrooms. Aim for short set contracts. And you should always attempt to retain some, if not all, of your masters. Simply for the reason so you can have control of what happens next in your music career. And that's exactly why artists should own their masters. People, I really hope you enjoyed the video. I know we got a bit deep, man. We got deep, but we had to. It was deserved. It's for you. Please, please, please take any information you need and just kind of pass it on to the next person. So from me, Vital, and the Ditto Music team, I want to say love, respect, and I appreciate you guys. You know exactly what to do. Subscribe, like, comment below, get in the comments to let me know exactly what you think about this information, and let me know if you've learned anything. Let me know if you can add anything to the knowledge pool of the Ditto community and really get involved. And I'll be in the comments as per, getting back to messages and making sure you guys are good. So with that said, I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. More love, powers, peace.